All right. Yeah, welcome to DZPD Season 2, Episode 12. I am
Week
gamertag
12.
Burt Reynolds. I look
Look
nothing
at
like Burt
that.
Reynolds. Nope, not at
Not
all.
tonight, but all
Uh,
ascotted out and everything. Look at you, though.
I am, well, yeah, I'm classy, man. Classy.
There you go.
And the dancing idiot over there is the golden voice of gaming, Negan Killjoy.
There, you're about half right. I'm dancing for sure. Yeah, no, it's all good. Hey,
Uh,
everybody, how's it going?
dancing fool. Let's like
Ooh.
before we get into the game tonight, let's talk about what we're drinking because I have to pour mine.
Oh, you do the same thing I
Tonight.
do. You don't drink it until you talk about it, right?
Well, I know it's I'm drinking a stout. Um,
Oh,
this
it's
is
should work out
Guinness.
real well.
Guinness's. Let's display this guy here. Blue can, right? Like that's not Guinness. This is the Over the Moon Milk Stout. It's from their Open Gate Brewery in Baltimore, Maryland. And
Over the moon. That sounds good.
Over the Moon. It's not the traditional Guinness like from Ireland, and I'm gonna pour it in a cup because I'm not a savage and I don't drink stout from a can. Um, it's getting poured
uh,
into a cup tonight, Negan. I'm pouring it into a Starbucks cup to camouflage it as coffee.
oh,
Um,
look at you. Very fancy.
in the division they call it soda.
Mm-hmm.
I call mine Starbucks. And yeah, so that's what I'm drinking tonight. What are you drinking?
I'm going to slaughter the name. I'm letting you know that ahead of time because I am trying a German beer. It's by Einger, a brewery out of Germany, and it's
Okay.
called Urweiss. Urwisse. So I think it's pronounced Urweiss, and
Irvice. Nice.
it is a authentic Bavarian dark Weizen.
Hmm.
So
Wheat beer.
it's like a wheat beer. So it's obviously it's authentic. So it's not filtered. It's a dark, what do they call it, a dark malt wheat. Oh yeah, dark wheat ale.
Nice.
So that's what I'm doing. And I am not a savage either. I'm not drinking it out of the bottle. I'm also not hiding it though. It is in
Okay.
my nice little my glass that I actually got from one of the places around here that says "Steal this pint" on the bottom of it.
Nice.
So we took
Okay.
them. I didn't steal officially. I actually asked the waitress that same night. I was like, "So it says steal it," and she goes, "Take them." I'm like,
Take
"Okay."
them. Okay. They don't. You
I
know what
took.
that is? They don't have a dishwasher.
They don't have
That's
a dishwasher.
that's what
Exactly.
that is. That's
And it was
exactly what
from
that is.
an event out here in the Oakland area. They sponsored an event, so it's a special ale glass as well. So that's what I'm drinking out of. I'm not a savage either. So to you, I
I'm
say
also
cheers.
cheers. I'm also drinking a watermelon La Croix tonight. Not a flavor I've had before. Not a
I like
flavor I'm super big fan of either.
watermelon's a hard
Um,
drink to enjoy. That's either it either hits it or it doesn't.
yeah, this one doesn't quite hit it. But it was
It's not.
new,
Oh, okay. There you go. Just
not
not
new
quite
and
as
improved. It's just
not
new.
even improved, just new. Yes, they missed the improved portion of it.
The improved portion of that is missing, but it's new. So I had to try it. I mean, being the connoisseur of La Croix that I am, I had to try it out.
Nice.
Yeah, so there you go. So I titled the stream, you asked about it, Fo
FOFOMO.
FOMO. Which
FOFOMO.
actually, the reason I titled it that's my fear of the fear of missing out. Um,
The fear of missing out. Okay.
yes.
Fear of
So
FOMO. Gotcha.
yes, I'm afraid of FOMO.
Oh
So
no.
I went back and watched live stream a little bit. I read the whole recap of it,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of news yesterday. Like a lot of news. Of course, we get an
Mm-hmm.
update next week on Tuesday. We'll stream next Thursday. Once we've gotten our heads wrapped around it a little bit, and there's a lot to be excited about. So I want to start there because I do want to excite. Like I don't want to bag on it. Um, there's a lot to be excited about. Yeah, coming up in this
That
game.
there is. Yes,
There
there are.
is. I think chief among them is going back to New York. I mean, if I'm honest, as I thought about it today, like I've just never fallen in love with DC. The way I fell in love with New York, and I think I think a couple things go into that. I don't necessarily love the summer environment. I think I really liked winter. I thought they did a great job. I don't think I've ever been in a game that captured winter.
That's
And
true.
being
Yeah,
from a place where there is harsh winters, I'd never
that's
experienced a
true.
video game that so accurately captured like the unpleasantness of winter, the isolation of winter. And New York felt very haunted by the weather, which is accurate when it's super cold and winter out. And the other thing I realized is really actually missing here in this game is this very much feels like a post-war zone DC, but does not feel like a post-viral apocalypse DC. Like New York had the piles of bodies and the little memorials set up places and stuff. There was just like you'd find things, right? And you got this very real sense of like everyone here died of a virus. You know,
Right. Yeah.
it was horrible. DC feels like like a war torn city. You know, it's doesn't feel like a post virus city.
Yeah, because the only place you really see
So
bodies is in DCD.
right,
It's really
yeah.
the only place I can think of off the top of my head.
Or if you see other ones, they're dead because they got shot, not because they
Mhm.
died of a virus. You know,
Right.
and there's not all the body bags and you know, call it morbid. It did a good job of setting a scene of feeling like you were in a post viral apocalypse city, and this does not. So I'm looking forward to going back to New York. I'm looking forward also to the elevation. You know, one of the things DC, I go to DC a lot. We have family there. It's not a very tall city because nothing can be taller than the Washington Monument. So not any high rises. You lose a little bit of that vertical scale. I miss that. Um, I remember just in Division 1 looking up, you know, when you'd be like, oh my, like you'd be on street level, and it's very much like it is when you are in New York. When you're on street level, you forget that there are things around you that are, you know, 100 stories tall. Um, it's a really cool experience. Stuff here is like 8 stories tall. It's
Right.
just not the same, you know, and so I'm looking forward to it. I know you are too.
Yeah, because and you mentioned the winter. I love the environment of New York. And same thing. DC is fun. It's a different kind of fun, but New York, the environment, the snow, which won't be there in this particular instance because we're going back 8 months later, so the snow may not be that big of a deal. We may
Yeah,
miss that. But they also did a really good job of, even though it was so tall, you still had this claustrophobic feeling to it. You felt like
mm-hmm.
you were still under pressure. You were still, I think that goes to what you were saying, is that they had a really good feel of a post-viral environment, that you were constantly in danger and there was something always there with you. And that, I think they did a really good job, that even though it was very vertical, they still had this very claustrophobic sense of it. It felt
Yeah,
very small to some extent.
yeah, yeah. It was foreboding and
Mm-hmm.
very haunted. Like it had a lot of genuinely frightening moments. In this game, you only really get that when you're in the undergrounds. You know, if you're in the sewer system, you sometimes will get into that. But you get to a point where you know the spawns down there. You realize what's coming. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that's true. The
Um,
first time you run into Chainsaw Guy, it's kind of a jump out of your chair type of moment. But after that,
yep.
it's like, oh, okay, here he is.
Then and once you get to an end game build, it's like, oh hey, there's Chainsaw Guy, and then you fire 3 shots, and then oh there he went.
Oh, poor Chainsaw Guy. Poor Chainsaw
Um,
Guy.
yeah, he's done. Um, so I am looking forward to going back to New York, and I think that's a positive, a big positive. And I am really looking forward to the new inventory. You know, not having to keep. I mean, if you look at my stash, right? Like, well, I'll open this thing up, man. I'm like nearly full. You know, 291 out of 300. I've got you know pieces in here. Like I'm never gonna run this chest. I just have it in here because it's got 13.5% weapon damage on it. You know what I mean? Like my stash is full of crap I will probably never run,
Right.
and it's
Well,
just in here because of high
that was
rolls, right?
yeah, that legitimately was a tactic that people were. We talked about it before with the clan jumping, that you jump into a
Mm-hmm.
lower clan because a clan vendor was selling the 13.5 chest. So you'd run
Yep.
out, you'd jump a clan, you'd go buy 10 of them, so you have 10 sitting there. Although you probably bought 15, because I'm guessing you re-rolled five of them into something else. But yeah, so you end up with
Right
like
off
you
the
did,
way.
10
Yeah.
of these, 20 of those, 15 of those, and pretty soon you're looking at 291 out of 300.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably after you clean up some stuff too. You probably went through the 300 not too recently and cleaned up 9 items.
I did on a regular basis, right? And I have
Yep.
mules. I have mules that have gear on them. So I love this idea of like a Rolodex of stat rolls. I think that's gonna be really cool. I think it's gonna be clean. I don't exactly understand how we'll use them because I think there's still a lot of unknowns around Gear 2.0. I know we're gonna have more options on chest pieces and backpacks, and of course you've got unique. You're not even gonna have talents on the other pieces, I don't think, and so I don't really know what Gear 2.0 exactly looks like. We know some. I think there's still some unknowns there.
Right. Yeah, how it's going to be
So
implemented is the big question.
I like what they said about creating we talked about it last night, creating paths to to go from hard to challenging, from challenging to legendary or legend or whatever it is, heroic, and heroic to legendary. Um, that sounds cool. Don't know how they're going to do that, but it sounds cool. I mean, it sounds nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually, that part was
yeah.
part of the one that's kind of stuck out to me when they talked about that because in Div 1, that was the thing with Div 1 that people kind of were salty about or kind of complained about at first was in order to do the legendaries, they mentioned on the stream that you had to have legendary gear, but the only way to get legendary gear was to do the legendaries. So
Right.
they've switched that around now with what you talk about, the progression. So I think, and the fact you might talk about it, but the global modifiers and stuff. So the harder you make the environment for you, the better the rewards. That you're not going to get
Yeah.
crap rolls. Your rolls are going to start higher.
Yeah.
And get be close to where they need to be.
And I like that. And I love the global modifier thing. And I love that they're bringing back global events. I think that's great.
Yep.
I'm excited for global events. I'm excited to be able to make the whole world hard. And we talked about this last night relative to Borderlands. Like, that's part of what I love about Borderlands, right? You turn the mayhem modes up, the whole world feels challenging.
Yes.
It's not like Destiny or like this, where you run around the world and you feel like some sort of god that can kill anything in one bullet, and then you go into a heroic mission and you feel under leveled. It's not like that. Although at this point that never happens to us anymore because our builds are so min-max. But I think that's the experience of the average gamer, right? If they've been playing, you can run around the city and even do tier 1 through tier 3 checkpoints pretty easily with an unoptimized build. Then you turn the checkpoint up to CP CP4, and if you don't have an optimized build, you're hosed.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into a
much more of a
heroic
struggle.
mission, you're hosed. It'll be cool
Yeah.
to be able to have that kind of challenge all the time and really use your optimized builds anywhere and everywhere. So I like that. That sounds fun. Sounds cool to me.
Yeah, I agree. And the way they're doing it, and the fact that that's regardless of whether you have the expansion or not. That is global.
Right.
That's across DC and New York.
Mm-hmm.
So they are implementing these things in both worlds, not just the expansion world.
Yeah. Reworking bounties seems good. Not needing target intel, changing up how that works. If you've got the expansion, they're reworking it all together. If you don't, they're going to have the old system for you. But I mean, that seems good. I think it'd be a good addition. Now onto the stuff I'm not so sure about. I am not so sure about exactly, again, how Loot 2.0, Gear 2.0 is going to work. It sounds like it may squash a little bit of the build diversity. It may squash a little bit of the RPG aspect of the game, potentially. We'll see. I think it's just going to be more limiting. I think it'll make it a move. The game today very much mirrors something like Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. I think it's going to move more towards a Destiny, Borderlands type of thing, where you're really only worried about a couple pieces, right? Like, you're going to be worried about your chest and your backpack. How much you'll worry about the other stuff, probably not as much, just for a stat roll on it. Is a good stat roll, bad stat roll. A lot more of it's going to have to do with your skill tree, how you allocate points, and apparently shade points that you use to just give yourself general buffs. Yeah. So I think like a little bit of the build stuff, which of course, since this is a build focused show, I'm slightly resistant to that. It's kind of what I do. I like making builds. I like testing out different combinations. If they're going to limit those combinations down to a handful of different pieces and make it much more about a skill tree, you're going to get what you get in Destiny or Borderlands, right? There's like 4 or 5 kind of meta builds for each class. Anything other than that,
about the shade levels and about this. So you may be talking about something a little more robust, but the shade levels, they're very careful saying that the shade levels aren't going to give you. They're not going to be the godlike buffs that you're looking for. They'll give you like a perk here and there, a little bit of a bump, but they're not going to be the godlike buffs. So
no. When I say skill tree, right, like from what they were describing, it's going to be a lot more about the interaction between, what is in here. This would be your skill tree.
Okay.
And then like your chest piece in your backpack. Like that's kind of going to be how you put it together. You know what I mean? Like it's going to have more to do with that. Or having a couple pieces of gear from a gear set, trying to combine things together there. But that brings me to the next thing, which I think I'm most concerned about when it comes to builds, which is Striker.
Yep, Striker. It's coming back. How can you not be excited about that? Come on, Striker. It's like Div 1 can return on a rerun.
And I think that's what they want you to do. I think that's what they want you to do, get nostalgic about it. But here's the problem with it, Negan. Unless they're reworking all the other gear sets.
Don't burst.
No, I'm bursting your bubble, man, because I want realistic expectations. Don't go. I know you're a fanboy. Don't be that fanboy. Don't be that fanboy,
all right.
Negan.
All right, I'm coming back down to earth. Okay, go ahead.
Striker looks awesome, Negan. It looks amazing, but that's the problem with it. It so outclasses everything else that all you're going to have is people running Striker. That's it. Okay. Unless they rework the other brand sets, the other gear sets, you're going to have one person running aces and eights because aces and eights, it helps the whole group. And then you're going to have a team of the rest of everyone else running Striker because it's what does DPS. Like you can't look at that. It's as good, if not better, than it was in Division 1, and it was the best set in Division 1. And then you look at what we've got in this game for gear sets, and they're not even as good. They're not as good as any regular old build like this one that I put together. They don't even compete. Other than aces and eights, but only as a support build. So
you think looking at Striker, you think it's going to be OP because of the damage, and you don't think the punishment outdoes the stacks, because the stack is I'm cheating. I'm actually looking at it because it says you stack it up to 50 times of 0.5%. And you lose the stack every second, and you lose 3 every time you miss. You don't think that's going to balance?
Yeah, but look at the 6 piece. Look at no. Look at the 6. Look at what the chest and backpack add to it. That's if you have 4 pieces of it. But if you have the chest and backpack, 6 piece. It greatly reduces. Stacks. Yep.
From Strikers.
See what it does?
3 to 2. Okay. So you still double up on your miss stacks, and then you're talking about the max stacks goes from 50 to 100. Amplify all weapon damage, and does all weapon damage. I'm kind of curious, and I'm kind of curious how they're doing the amplify because that's what they're talking about. They're not doing the pistol damage and stuff like that. I think they talked about all their new breeds of gear sets are going to amplify something.
Mm-hmm.
They're using the terminology now. So okay, so you think it's going to be OP? You think that's what that's going to become the meta? Everybody's going to be using that?
Well, unless we haven't seen everything. This is why there's some great unknowns out there, right?
Mm-hmm. But a lot of redacted. There was a lot of redacted stuff.
Yeah. We'll see, but I think it has the potential, and I think it has the potential to be the only gear set you'd ever run other than aces and eights.
Okay.
So then what? You know what I mean? Like, where are we at after that? And I hate to say this, I hate to call Massive out on this, but that's kind of their track record when they added stuff in the last game. You know what I mean? Every time they added a gear set in the last game, for a period of time, it was super OP, and then they ended up having to nerf it because it was like the only option, right? Like, remember when they added Nomad, like Path of Nomad, like it was all anyone ran, right? Like, or when they added the original Reclaimer, you know, it gave the special bolts. It was like they don't always think them all the way through.
Right.
And so I don't know what else they're doing. Hopefully they're being smarter than that. They're not doing a PTS for this. It might be, man. It might be like you run Striker, you don't run anything. That would be sad to me.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not good.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So what route would you, as a gamer and stuff like that, and as a fan of Div and stuff like that, would you rather them go the opposite direction where they put in something that isn't as powerful to begin with, and then buff it, or do you prefer, or do you like the put it in there and then nerf it down? Which route? Obviously, you can't hit the balance the first time out. They have to do one or the other. Which do you prefer that happens?
Here's what I prefer. I prefer they get in some PTS time, figure it out ahead of time, and then make appropriate buffs to everything else. I'm never a fan of nerfing.
Okay.
So I always feel your better move is to come in with, you know, whatever you want to end with, and then buff everything around it till it's balanced. That's always my vote. So, and that's part of what we don't know today, right? We don't know exactly how these other brand sets and brands are going to interact. We don't know. But I get the feeling we're going to find some metas really quick, and they're going to be the only options. You know, there'll be a couple chess piece towns that are like a must-have if you're not going to run Striker. I don't know, Negan. I mean, I have the least confidence here. It's got the most unknown around it. But I have the least confidence in this particular area. So while I'm cautiously excited, and I love seeing the Striker name, I love seeing that it basically does the same thing it used to do, I am genuinely worried it's going to be a broken thing. And yeah.
And they did touch on the system corruption being the only PvP, and it was very clear that they're making that one to be the PvP of choice. The guys were talking about that, how once you learn how to use it, it's just killer, quote unquote. So so maybe they're trying to do the same thing with Striker. And you said there are a lot of unknowns. Maybe Striker isn't going to drop as easily as it could. So it might be one of those, we're just kind of behind.
Or maybe there's a chest and backpack setup that it puts out equal damage, and maybe there's a skill chest and backpack. And again, we're going to have skill points that we have to put into different things, right? So there again, that comes into the build, and they're going to make you spec into being a mage or a tank or a damage dealer, and I appreciate that, right? Like I genuinely appreciate that. They're going to make you spec into stuff. No more of what I've got going on a lot of my builds where I'm doing tons of skill damage and a ton of gun damage. No more of that. Appreciate it. Makes sense. I got it.
Which they've been trying to do the whole time. They've been trying to make the players make that trade-off, make that decision of what are you going to do. But yeah, you're right. If they put in an OP build, and it's going to get to the point, even if it's going to get to like it was for the raids for a while there, you had to have this X number of values in all your stats, or nobody would even run the raid with you.
Right.
So if a Striker can become that. If you don't have Striker, we're not doing the stuff with you anymore.
Right.
It becomes an exclusion,
and that's
as opposed
to
inclusion.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is definitely my fear. And that brings me to the last thing I was going to talk about, which is what the title's about. I saved it for last.
FOFOMO. Ladies and gentlemen, now we're talking FOFOMO, which we discussed was a Beach Boys song.
Yes, it's not Kokomo, Beach Boys song.
Not Kokomo. It's FOFOMO.
It's exactly. FOFOMO. Yeah. Seasons. Okay. I'm interested to hear your take on seasons, but the problem is we know seasons, right? We know seasons because we play Destiny.
Yeah.
Seasons always have to do with fear of missing out. It's stuff you can only get for 3 months. You can only get points in that season for that 3 months, whether it's cosmetics or in this case, I know they're going to drop some gear out of this, out of the season passes. And there's got to be a fear of missing out aspect because they're also selling season levels like
Yeah, they talk
Destiny
about that.
does, right? Like where you can, like if you don't have time for real money, you can buy level ups in your season, rankings and whatever. And man, I'm just sick of the fear of missing out. Like it's so bad with Destiny, and I think you feel this way same as me. But like, I look at it and I'm just like, nah, I'm just not even gonna play it. like I just
Yeah.
don't care. You know what I mean? Like because nothing good comes out of it until you're way into it, and so when I look at it with the season, like I mean, I got all the way up through whatever season rank 100 this time around. I ground all the way till I filled out my artifact to 100. But as I
Right.
look at next season, I'm like, am I going to do that again every 3 months? Like really? And what did I get out of it? Not a lot. Nothing permanent other than some shaders, and I got some really good armor out of it, but that armor is negated next season anyway in Destiny, so it's like that whole fear of missing out thing, man. It's such a turnoff to me. And partly because it just requires such a grind, like unless you're gonna invest like hundreds of hours into the season,
Yeah, that's right. They did
you
say
might as well
50
just
hours or
ditch it.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might as well
See,
just not do it.
as you described me earlier, from a fanboy perspective, I think the way they're approaching seasons, and the way I understood it is, it's not as much a missing out issue because they talked about how anything that they have in the season tracks is going to be like droppable loot. It enters the loot pool, from what I understood.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then from that point forward, it's there. So it's not punishing you as much as you mentioned Destiny 2, which is just if you don't get the stuff, literally everything in Destiny 2 is built on FOMO, hardcore.
Right,
Almost everything
right.
in Destiny 2 is, well, you missed this event, nobody else is going to experience this, you missed this lore. So I think with the way they're approaching seasons, is a little bit of, hey, there's a grind, there's these goals you can hit, there's the striker outfit that is part of the season pass that you can get as you go through it. So
Right.
that's kind of cool. And like you talk about shaders and stuff like that. And I think this is where they're going to do it more palatable than anything else, is because you mentioned the artifact from Destiny 2. And the artifact was a
Mm-hmm.
legit power strategy that was legitimately giving you more power playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't do the artifact and you were with people who did, you felt like not only were you missing out, but you weren't doing shit, to be honest. It was like these guys are right
Yeah.
around it
No.
at your level plus 10 because they were grinding it out. So it's like you not only were missing out, but you were being punished for not doing it.
Right.
And I think it didn't sound like that they were doing that in this implementation of seasons here. Yes, they're obviously concerned about it because they are going to sell at the end of the seasons, like the last 3 weeks, I think they said, of that season pass boost that you can purchase at the end. If you have,
So again, though, I mean, you're not going to sell that unless there's something great about it, right? And
Mhm.
so, and I agree that they are definitely trying to handle this better than anyone else has before. But in every game that has seasons, whether it's Fortnite or Overwatch or PUBG or this or, any game that has seasons and season passes, Ghost Recon, probably the most prime
Mhm.
example, and that's another UB title. It involves
Right.
you missing out, maybe not on something necessary, but you're missing out on something. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I have a fear of strategy of fear of missing out. I
Okay.
do, and that's why I titled the stream FOFOMO,
Fear of
um,
FOFOMO. Gotcha.
because I do. I have a fear of that. I have a fear of it spoiling things for this game because here's the thing, and we were talking about this before we started streaming tonight, right? Like, I got a bunch of up and travel for work, so I'm gonna be gone a day or two every week for the next couple weeks, and then I'm going on vacation for 10 days. So in the next 30 days, I'm probably gonna be gone 16, 17 days out of those 30 days.
Right.
What am I missing out on? How far behind
Right.
am I? I'm already thinking about it. You see, I'm already thinking about how far behind my friends I'm going to get and how much that's going to suck. And that isn't there if you don't have a fear of missing out aspect, but it's there when you have a fear of missing out aspect, right? So, like, I don't want to see them do that. But they're going to do it. They're going to have to try it. Hopefully, they just don't implement it poorly, and hopefully, they learn from Ghost Recon and don't implement it poorly. Hopefully, they learn from Destiny and don't implement it poorly. But I'm just calling out a chance they will. I have a fear of that.
Okay. All right. So speaking of seasons, and I don't know how much you caught from another game that we've been playing lately is Borderlands 3, because they also talk seasons.
They did. I did not catch exactly what they did say about seasons today. So fill me in on that.
I kind of pushed it a little bit, but they didn't say a whole lot about seasons. But what they're doing is their seasons are tied to DLCs.
Okay.
So you have the season progress and stuff you can do during the season and the events and seasons, but it's tied to a DLC. So you have to purchase the season pass, or you have to purchase the DLC. So right off the bat, just to do anything in seasons in Borderlands, it clearly, I think that is much more. And it's not punishing. I didn't get the impression it was punishing. It's just going to be you're missing out a piece of content that you can't play. Like I think the last one was Moxie's heist or whatever.
Right.
So I think.
But
that's
you'd be
what it
missing
sounded
out
like
on
that
that anyway because you didn't buy the DLC, right? Like
Right.
that's. And I can actually live with that. I can live with.
Okay.
I can live with that. I still don't like the idea of adding seasonal stuff there. But I can live with the fact that you didn't buy the story DLC, so you don't get to play the story DLC. Right? Like, I get
Right.
that. If you're going to add 20 hours of story content and you're going to charge for that and people don't buy it, then yeah, they should miss out on that story content and anything that goes with it. And we talked about this the other night too. Borderlands does a really good job with their expansions, right? Because it is meaningful story content, new location, new characters, whole new storyline, new guns, new armor. In your case for your build, right? Like they dropped a class mod that is like a game changer for your build.
Right.
But it's DLC, man. I mean, it's downloadable content. You got to like buy it. It's separate piece of content.
And they do, and Borderlands did make it very specific, and the reason they're doing it, and I think it's interesting to see how the different companies are going about this, is because they're trying to avoid as much as they can the microtransaction stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Massive is doing it in one way. They're doing it like you get the pretties, you get the cool outfits and stuff like that, but you're still gonna have all the game fun involved. But they want you to do the transaction stuff of getting the news. They're not going to put anything game winning behind a paywall. And Borderlands is kind of doing the same thing. Like we don't want to create microtransactions, but the companies have to make money, and I can cut them some slack that they have to make money. If they don't make money, at some point
we don't get games.
we don't get games.
Right.
They don't get new stuff.
I want them to make money. I hope they make money, and I have nothing but I literally have nothing but respect and love for Massive. I feel like they have become a great game studio ever since 1.3 of Division 1. They've become maybe the most customer-driven game studio I've ever seen in my life. I've been around gaming a long time. I worked in gaming at one point. Like, I've never seen a studio who's so passionate about hearing from their customers. A close second are the people at Gearbox. They love their customers.
Yes.
They listen to them a lot. They're the two companies that are very similar. Bungie is tone deaf. They're the polar opposite end. They listen, but they don't make any adjustments based on it, right? Like they have a vision, they're driving their vision forward. They will make minor adjustments based on what their customer base says, but they will also go directly against. Like you can have a whole, it can be the outcry on the forums. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and they do it.
Yeah, that's true. They have done that a couple times.
Yeah, and so
They're- they're doing it currently with snipers.
They are right, because they have a picture in their head of what they want their game to be, and honestly, Bungie has been that way since they were helming Halo. It is what it is, man. I think they are a very tone deaf company. They make good games, pretty games, and sometimes very fun games, but they also make infuriating decisions that alienate their player base on a regular basis. So I respect the heck out of both Massive and out of Gearbox, and I respect that they're both trying to keep us from having to buy stuff if we don't want to. But here's the funny thing, man. I'm willing to throw money at these two companies because I respect them.
Yeah, we did. We did it with the expansion with no questions asked. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, there we go.
Yep. Take my money.
Yep.
Give me some more Division. It's the same with Borderlands. They put something out, I'm gonna buy it. But it will be interesting to see how these seasons shake out, and if Borderlands does add seasonal content, so to speak, that is anything like this, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. I'm just saying though, timed events, you're missing out. It does create undue stress that I don't think everybody needs, and I think it creates a potentially bad user experience from time to time. Not always, but man, if they do anything like Destiny has done in that regard, I will be saddened and disappointed and let down.
Absolutely, I will absolutely agree with you there. If they implement it the way Destiny did, then it will be a huge disappointment. Huge.
Yeah. So I'm just calling it out today. I have some fears, and we'll see what happens. We'll see. March 10th, I think. I'll be out of town, the day they launch it. But we'll see what they do. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what they come up with. And I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see and hope. I'm very hopeful that they will implement it well.
Yeah. No. So am I. That would be one way to do it if they do it. Like I said, doing the seasons and stuff like that. If they do it right, and it does sound like they are selling it that way to me. They are selling it that, look, we're not putting anything game breaking. We're not putting anything behind this paywall for you. You have the chance to get everything on the premium track, quote unquote, in some other fashion. So
yeah, and that is definitely how they have sold it. So here's hoping that's what they do, man. Here's hoping that's what they do. So on that note, March 3rd, next Tuesday.
March 3rd, yeah.
March 3rd.
I can't believe it's already here, though. It's already under a week.
We get to go back to New York.
Taking on Keener. Gonna take on Keener.
We'll be streaming that next Thursday night. We'll stream our impressions from New York next Thursday night. The following week, March 10th, season 1 in here starts. The seasons start. That Thursday night, we'll be on to talk about seasons and how do we see they implemented it and what are they thinking. So those will be our next two shows. And so, go check those things out as they drop, and we'll continue this discussion. At some point, we'll start doing builds again, provided there are builds.
There will be builds. You always seem to find a way. There'll be something. There'll be something out there.
I always find a way, right?
That's right.
I got my Borderlands builds, even though there's less options there. But we'll find something. But so there's what we're looking forward to, and there's what we're going to talk about. Did you have anything else you wanted to discuss tonight, Negan, that you were thinking about?
No, you know what? I think we hit on it. I mean, you did bring me down to earth a little bit on my fanboyism. So okay, I'm down to earth and reset on that stuff. But no, I think you touched on the stuff, the seasons. As we talked about quite a bit. There's that. There's the builds. There's Striker coming back. There's the Striker outfit that you can get. So there's that. Just as I've said before, it's sometimes just the little things. So I know. We hit everything. We touched on everything.
Yeah, and then other dates coming up. The next season in Destiny starts March 10th. Season of the
Worthy, I believe, is what they're calling it.
Worthy, yeah. Season of Worthy, which is probably the launch of Trials of Osiris, probably.
That's what everybody's talking about. Yep.
Yep. And then March 26th, the next
That's
DLC
right.
for Borderlands comes out. So exciting month. A lot of stuff going on in all the games we play. But I think we'll primarily be here in New York, not in DC. We'll primarily be in New York, I believe, is what we'll be spending our next month on. And at the end of the month, maybe we'll go back to Pandora for a little while. But
There you go.
so that's all the stuff that's upcoming.
That
I think
there
next
is
week we'll
actually-
probably shift our stream title over to season 3. I think we'll start a new season.
Absolutely.
To coincide with the launch of all this. So.
But there was
Yeah.
actually there was one more thing. In the stream, Massive talked about how with the drop of Warlords, that somehow and this has got me intrigued a lot as well. That somehow DC changes as well. That there's part of the storyline or there's something that because you're in New York, when you go back to DC, something has changed. And they were very obtuse about what it is, but they did say that the invasions and stuff like that. The guy said, yeah, the invasions are still happening, and he mentioned something else, and he didn't say what that other thing was. So I'm intrigued to see what they do, because once you go to New York, you can't go back to DC till you're done with New York.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was the other thing, that you have to finish New York before you go back to DC. So you make that commitment. So I'm kind of, I want to see how they do
I'm
that,
excited.
and what they're
I'm
talking
excited
about. So
to do it.
that's
Excited to
kinda
see
cool,
it. Excited to do it. Excited to get. I will say this. I do appreciate and like the fact that since they're making us start over. So this is the one place where I think Destiny has it in spades. Whenever they add new content, they add new light levels, you can always infuse up your old gear. I like that better. Like my entire stash is garbage, probably on March 3rd, probably. That feels unrewarding. Some of these pieces I've ground for, I love. I've put so much time and effort into some of them. Getting the best one, getting ones with perfect attributes, and rolling even better attribute onto it. I have some personal attachment here, That's the great thing about Destiny. They launch new content, power level goes up, you can always infuse your old stuff, even like old stuff, right? Like I infused up a Manananon at one point, which is, they haven't had one of those since the first year of Destiny 2, right?
Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
It's been a long
out
time.
there.
Yeah. Pretty cool, right? I like that. If they're not going to do that, like what we just went through with Borderlands, like my whole stash is junk. I got no way to bring any of it up to current levels. And all I'm going to do is go get the exact same stuff all over again, just with better rolls on it because now I'm 3 levels higher. That feels crappy. That is traditionally how the Division has handled it. Every time they did a power level increase in Division 1, you just basically went out into the world with your gold gear or brand gear sets and went and farmed the exact same pieces again at a higher level. And it felt unrewarding. In this case,
going out with the shopping list again.
In this case, we're going back to blues, then purples, then golds, and we're leveling up. Suddenly we're 10 levels underdone with the game again. I kind of like that better. If you're not going to do it the right way, which I would argue is the Destiny way, that is the right way to handle it. If you're not going to handle it the right way, this is definitely a close second best. If you're going to negate everybody's crap, don't make them go back out with their great gear on to go farm the same gear over and over again. Drop them down a few notches and make them regain their levels back. That's a better move, in my opinion. It feels less disingenuine. There's something disingenuine about, hey, I raised the level cap by 10, so go farm the same gear you're wearing 10 levels higher than what you have today.
Yeah.
Because in 6 months, I'm going to raise it again, and you're going to do the same thing a third time. Like that just feels stupid, right? Like that's not cool. This feels better than that. So I'm happy in that regard.
But so overall, to sum up, you're mostly excited. You're super excited. Everything's going to be golden rain and unicorns. Not golden rain. Take that back. Rainbows and unicorns. Or do you?
Where is your mind at tonight, my friend? Where is your mind at?
Clearly not the right spot. So it's rainbows and unicorns, or have you kind of dialed it back a little bit? You're not rainbows and unicorns level. There's some things you're excited about. There's a couple of things you're excited about, but there's also the pragmatic view of it as well, right? That's kind of a way to sum up kind of where you're coming from.
You know, you and Horchata joke about me being a pessimist. It might be fair. Might be fair. I try to consider myself a realist. I'm never a fanboy.
Go with pragmatic. I like pragmatist. I think that describes you really well.
I'm a pragmatist. Okay,
There
I'm
you
a
go.
pragmatist. That's fair. Analyzing what I see here, I'm going to give it a solid B.
There you go. Okay.
I'm going to give it a solid B, which I'm excited about a B.
Right. That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
And I think over part of it though, and I'm just going to confess this right now, part of it is I don't feel like I have the time to put in the hours and work needed to get the most out of it right now. And so there's a disheartening aspect to that. You know what I mean? Like if I were sitting here and I had, 3 weeks of vacation in the next, month, and that was staycation, where I was just basically doing work around the house during the day and then had gaming time at night, I might feel different. This feels like it's going to be a reboot, which means a lot of work.
Right.
That
Yeah.
it feels like what they're basically telling me is, hey, forget everything you just did. Let's start over and do this right. Cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I want to do it right. I just don't have time right now for that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
So
that makes sense.
that's
legit.
that shading things a little bit for me. And so, but overall, if I try and look at it realistically and try and take that out, I feel like this is going to be a B. I think they're going to lose some stuff that I think was really good, and I'm going to miss it a lot. But I think they're going to add a lot of really good stuff and fix a lot of genuine problems. So
Yes.
I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about the inclusion of a different locale a lot. So there's that as well. So
Right.
I feel good about it, man. And Borderlands, after reading the stuff on that today, I haven't see the stream, but I got to watch or hear a little bit of it and read a little bit of it. I put it squarely there too. It's a B. Like I'm looking forward to it, but there's an aspect of it. Now they did not talk about increasing the levels any further right now. So I think they're going to let us ride at 53 for a little bit, which I think is nice. But I give that a B too. The B. We'll see, man. I don't think I can give it better than that. I'm really excited about it, but I don't think it'll be anything more than a B. When I think about Season of the Worthy, I give that a solid C minus. Unless Destiny changes something major with how they do seasons, I'll come back for a week, maybe two, check it out, pick up some of the must-have crap, and then I'm out again. Like, I'm not grinding another season in there right now, not for the same kind of season. No. So there's that, man. I feel like this is the number one contender for the spring crown at the moment.
All right. Well, thank you, Professor Reynolds. I like the fact that you handed out grades. Very nice.
There we go. It's the teacher in me, man. Yeah. So on that note, man, why don't you sign us off for the night, and we'll go stop talking and do something different, like play a game.
All right. Well, thanks for showing up, everybody, and see ya.